Hello and welcome to the June 2025 version of the economic update here from Kingdom Focus Financial. Thanks for tuning in. If you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button down below. And also you can go back and look at the previous month's videos for more emphasis on what's going on in the market from our perspective. So we have with us today myself, Derek Malden, Michael Smith, and Chuck Etzweiler. Take it away.
Hey, thanks, Derek. And as always, thank you for joining us and taking a few minutes to listen to our thoughts on the market as we dive into what's happening in our current year. First and foremost, we're in springtime here, so things are a little soggy and wet as the rains are needed to make things grow, but the weather is a bit warmer, and we are loving the sunshine when it shows. Speaking of sunshine, the market lately has given us some sunshine, right? Things are looking good. And in general, when you got your statements at the end of May, you probably liked what you saw. However, it's an ongoing process. It's an ongoing thing. And so today we want to dive into the next leg of our theme for this year, which was power, if you recall. And on your screen, we referenced that we are on the W this month to talk a little bit more about how the current world economic system and where that fits falls into an impact point in our portfolios and how we're managing things for you. So Chuck, I'm going to turn it over to you and let you dive into that scenario for us today. So go for it.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Derek. Always great to be with everyone. I was just thinking as you were saying that POWER, 5 letters, the W is right smack in the middle. June, right smack in the middle of the year. So we're knocking them off here one by one. But this one, I think, is highly unique. We got some good information here, Michael, Derek, to share with our clients and investors. So let's start off with that map from Executive Gov. And basically, this map shows the official nation status with the United States. And what I mean by that is the nation deemed to be an ally? Is it unfriendly, friendly, an enemy, etc.? So when we started off this year, and basically we talked about this in Q4, as you guys know, we said, if we're going to own international stocks, we want those companies to be domiciled in countries that at least have a friendly nation status with the United States. So as we look at this map, we certainly see the good old US of A in the red and blue diagonal stripes. You can see the mainland, you can see Alaska and Hawaii. The yellow allied nations, we have the UK, for the most part, England, we have Spain and Germany. We have Australia, but then we get into some murky territory. We have unfriendly nations in orange, and in red, we have actual enemies. So the thought was this: in this new world that we live, in a post-COVID world, guys, where we no longer have globalization, we have the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, certainly the saber-rattling of the Chinese Communist Party with Taiwan, which is called the continued, if you will, rhetoric between North and South Korea, certainly Israel, Palestine, and other rumors of wars. We felt as though that was the first component that we were going to use as a screening mechanism. As we get to the second slide, and it's interesting, guys, as we're recording this today towards the end of May, we just had a court ruling on tariffs. So where they lie, no one knows, but I think we can safely say that we live in a world with heightened tariffs from what we saw coming into 2025. Now, whether one views them from an economic or political status as being good or bad, that's not our role. Our role is to, again, vet the policy, determine which countries will have tariffs imposed on them that maybe are a little strong in essence, that would warrant us not to own a company in that country, or maybe even, guys, the United States domicile business that actually has a supply chain dependent on those various countries. So you can see the summary table here. This, of course, is subject to change But as we see today, there's a 10% universal tariff that may be again challenged in the courts, the Chinese 30% tariff. But as we walk through many of these, what we've seen in the power theme is that R component really come to fruition, reshoring. It's going to be exceptionally important for companies both in the U.S., domiciled outside of the U.S., if they desire to skirt tariffs and have a supply chain that is connected from the original point of production until the original point of sale. Without a tariff, they're going to have to bob and weave through this. That's our job, to find those companies in those given countries. So, Michael and Derek, as we get to the next component here, so just in kind of a summary, we have number one, dealing with friendly nations or allies of the United States. And number two, trying as best we can to vet the tariff policy and understand it as deeply as possible, owning companies in countries that basically have the smaller than larger tariff imposed on them, or if they can make deals with the United States, maybe no tariffs whatsoever. Now, the third component is really interesting, guys. Again, a little bit of mixture of politics with certainly business. Sometimes we have to do that. But as the Trump administration took office, one of their goals was to reduce the dependency from a monetary standpoint of the United States and how we protect our friendly nations. What that basically means is that protection is still going to be there, but those countries are going to have to pay more for what they actually are getting from the United States. So as we see this third slide, this is defense spending as a percentage of GDP. You can see that the European Union, which is highlighted in orange, spends about 1.7% of gross domestic product on military spending. Why is this important? It's important, again, because the administration has earmarked the NATO nations as, again, ponying up more for their military spending. As we just kind of look at this particular chart, it's intriguing. The president and his team just went to the Middle East and cut some deals with Qatar and certainly Saudi Arabia, which leads at 7.1%. You can see the U.S. at 3.4%. So we're kind of in the middle of this. But what I wanted to focus on, if it was okay, again, for our investors and our clients, is the European Union. So if we get to the last slide here, we can see really in the beginning of the year, the president met certainly with NATO leaders of the European Union, as well as the United Kingdom, which of course is outside of the EU. And you can see here what each one of these countries has committed to. And it's kind of fascinating. Again, the European Union spends only 1.7% of their overall spending on the military. And in essence, what we've seen is NATO understands that they still want the United States to be not only an ally, but protect them from a military standpoint, but collectively they're going to have to meet the demands of spending more on it. So you can see Europe on the second bullet point is going to now probably have to spend more than 3% of GDP. Again, they're at 1.7. So there's an 800 billion euro defense initiative. So what does this mean? Well, it means we have an overweight in industrials. There are companies that are in the industrial sector that do business with the European Union, including such countries as Germany, as France, those outside, such as the United Kingdom, and assisting them in building up their military alliance. So it would behoove individuals that wanted to own companies based in the U.S. that are dealing with these European countries. Another thing that's fascinating, Michael and Derek, is that for the first time, really post-Great Financial Crisis, international stocks, specifically Europe, including the United Kingdom, look appealing. Part of the reason they do is the purse strings were tightened for many years, and they had to meet the demands against this alliance. It basically said you couldn't go above 2% of your spending on military and other restraints. Those are now loosened. So what it means is for those given countries, it means their economies are going to be stimulated. It also means that companies within those countries will have more money at their disposal from the government. Of course, G is a component of GDP. And what we likely see is maybe this year is not an anomaly for international stocks to outperform the US. We're only halfway through the year. But if you look at some of those countries in Europe, they've outperformed as more money will be coming from the government to aid in spending to spur economic growth. So all in all, as I kind of wrap this up, Michael and Derek, again, we're limiting our ownership of companies in international countries today. That may increase as we walk through time. It certainly has from last year. But again, three-prong approach. Friendly nation status or an ally of the United States. The imposition of tariffs is nil or minimal. And owning those companies in these countries that are benefiting from government spending, specifically in the European Union.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And breaking it down a little bit further into our portfolios or language that clients, you may hear, that's blue collar jobs. That's industrial production of all kinds of heavy equipment operations, etc. And the other thing that often connecting the dots together here that often gets missed is what some of those underlying foundational pieces mean for other things. Like, let's talk global peace for a second, because when you're playing with somebody else's toys, you don't care if you break them. But when you got to build or buy your own toys, you don't necessarily want to go brandishing that sword pretty quickly. And so I think it could have another effect of trying to keep the calm and the peace a little more in play around the globe as well, which is good for everybody overall.
Peace through strength, right? Well said, Michael.
Absolutely. And I think that's some of the underlying factors at play here. And as I mentioned, that industrial space, I mean, this is, from what I understand, the administration is trying to bring those jobs back to the U.S. with the anticipation that the demand is going to increase, the demand is going to go up, and that those companies in that space will have more opportunity, not only for growth for the investors, but in job opportunities presented for those working in their companies in those facilities. Am I right on that? You follow?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well said.
That's why we have certain things in our portfolio that are geared towards that reshoring. That's what we do. We're looking out to figure out where do we need to be for the investor. So if you have any questions, you can certainly give us a call about your specific portfolio on that.
So I hope this was helpful. Thanks again for joining us this month. I wish you a blessed summer. I hope it's calm, peaceful, full of family, full of sun. We're certainly kicking things off here in good fashion from a market perspective. Right now, let's hope that holds. And obviously, we can't predict the future, but we do have a pretty positive outlook for what's ahead for the rest of this year. So click that subscribe button for sure if you liked what you heard today, if it was helpful, and feel free to share it with as many people as you think would benefit from hearing from us as well. If you have individual questions about your portfolios, as always, just give us a call at the office. The number is below, and we look forward to chatting with you. Thanks. Have a great